to thank you all for coming, those of you who are here already with us. I do know that we have a crowd already on hand at the Wallach House in Chinatown, so hello, good evening to you all. Okay, great. So let's get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ben de Guzman, and I am proud to serve as the director for Mayor Muriel Bowser's Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs here in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to thank you all for joining us for tonight's Asian American and Pacific Islander Community Virtual Town Hall. We do these events periodically to make sure that we're able to continue engaging our residents and business owners here in the district, and to make sure that they are that we're providing them with the most current and up-to-date information about what's happening in city government. And likewise, we use these as an opportunity to get information and feedback from you, our residents and business owners here in the district, about your opinions and ideas and recommendations for us in city government as we continue to move forward. So I did want to say that, as we've gone through these last 2 months already, almost 2 months here in February, the only constant has been change. We've made significant pivots in our programming for these few months of the calendar year, and we're so glad that you've been able to keep up with us. You stuck with us and joined us for our virtual programming earlier this month for Lunar New Year, even as we switched to our virtual programming. And tonight's event obviously is virtual as well. As we'll learn more about tonight, as we continue to make progress against COVID-19 and we've adjusted our policies accordingly, We hope that we continue to make more progress and that we'll begin to have in-person events as we head into our heavy time of the year, including May, which is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So as we start off today, then, I did want to turn it over to our Public Information Officer, Rob Tepenio, who will walk you through some of the logistical stuff that you will need to know in order to best participate in this evening's events.
Hi, everybody. Again, this is Robert, the Public Information Officer here at the DC Mayor's Office on Asian Pacific Islander Affairs. I want to thank everybody for joining us here this evening, as we have three amazing guests joining us here tonight. If you would like to ask them any questions in regards to their section of the presentation, you are more than free to do so inside of the chat function inside of our WebEx Townhall, or you can do so on our Facebook page, which we are streaming live right now, in any of the comments over there. If you have any further questions, again, feel free to direct them to us here again in WebEx or on our Facebook live stream page right now. Other than that, I think I can kick that over to Ben. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Part of our additional logistical burden tonight is that, and Rob mentioned this earlier, I think before we officially started, but that for everyone's information, we are currently simultaneously translating this town hall and the proceedings into different Asian languages. And we're coming at you from different physical venues in the city. And so it is a little bit of a logistical kind of thing that we are doing tonight. And so we did want to encourage, again, our speakers and our participants as we go into question and answer sections, to make sure that they are mindful of that and that there are interpreters and people with limited English proficiency who are in our audience tonight, as we make sure that our workings of city government and our presentations with you all and our engagements continue to be as accessible as possible. I did want to take this opportunity to thank our staff who are pulling off this logistical challenge with us tonight. You've been able to hear from Rob. The rest of our staff are being deployed in the different venues and different roles that they're playing tonight. But I did want to thank the entire team. Team MOAPIA has really pulled together, especially over these past couple of weeks and months during our programming. And so I just wanted to thank them. I did also want to thank our Commission on Asian Pacific Islander Development for their support and their partnership. Our Commission observed its 35th anniversary this past August and is spending this year engaging commissioners, commission alums, residents, business owners, and other stakeholders throughout the city to figure out kind of where we've been in the last 35 years. And we look forward to, as they finish this 35th year of observance, that they will be presenting some of their reflections and observations in this process of their engagement with folks here in the district. So we're looking forward to that later on in the summer. So, but for now today, I wanted to be able to introduce you to our presentations for tonight. So in terms of a procedure then, we are actually going to have each of them, our three presenters from three different parts of city government, provide an initial presentation about their area of expertise, about some of the things that are happening here in the city. And then we'll have each of them do their presentations in turn, and then we will have a question and answer section for all three of them together. So we figured it would be it would maximize our time together to do it that way jointly. So our first presenter, and I'm always proud to show him off in our community, I'd like to introduce to you the Deputy Chief of Staff Tomas Talamante. As part of Mayor Bowser's senior leadership team, Tomas has been a strong advocate for our communities for as long as I've known him here in city government, and we're proud to have him here with us tonight. Tomas?
Thank you so much, Director de Guzman, and I just want to applaud you and your team's hard work. I love coming to your meetings, and I just know so much work is put into everything that you all do to ensure that these meetings are very informational for the community and that we have great interaction and participation. So thank you, Director, to you and your team. I also just want to thank you to all the residents that are joining this evening. I'm very happy to be here to talk about budget, and not only is budget one of the most important things that we do in our roles for Mayor Bowser, but it's one of the opportunities where we get to interact the most with residents on their most important issues and priorities that they want to see reflected by Mayor Bowser and her administration. And we are deep in the process of Mayor Bowser formulating her FY23 fiscal year 23 budget. And so I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about that. And many of you may have participated in our budget engagement forum. And if you did, I just want to say thank you so much. If you did not, there's still a great opportunity for you to not only share your budget priorities with us here tonight, but also in the coming days. If you know anybody that maybe isn't with us this evening and would love to share their priorities, they can always go to budget.dc.gov at any time and share through our form there what they want to see invested and why. Or we also have a hotline number that people can call and leave a voicemail, so that if you don't feel like typing, you want to just call and leave us a note about it, you can do so as well. We've already been joined by over 10,000 residents between our two forums, sharing their priorities with us, which is exciting. And although they were virtual, we can't wait to get back together for in-person virtual budget engagement or in-person budget engagement forums again in the future. But I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about the process and where we're at, so we can go to the next slide. Right now, we are still in the formulation phase of the budget. And again, we can go to the next slide just so I can point out where we're at. But Mayor Bowser is still in the process of formulating her budget, and we start, as you can see on the screen, in the late fall and winter. District government agencies already start to prepare their budget requests for the upcoming year. And that's when the mayor's budget team, which is led by Jennifer Reed, who is our budget director, they begin starting to review the details. And then the next step, which is what we're in right now, is the process of talking to residents, engaging with residents and hearing from you about what programs and services and facilities we fund through the budget, what you want to see more of. And they help us hear about those priorities. We are able to take those priorities from you, the agency input, and then that's when we go take those back to the agency and we take them to the mayor, and then we present the mayor's final budget proposal to the council. We'll be doing that this year on March 16th. The budget engagement is so important because we hear from you on things for like more money for the Housing Production Trust Fund, or you want to see more investment in public safety, or immigrant justice legal services grant. That advocates helped us not only invest and create that program, but then expand it throughout the past few years. And that's really real-time engagement from residents and community on the budget that we appreciate. So after the mayor introduces the budget, the council then spends about 2 months reviewing the process, the mayor's budget proposal. We hear from the community has the opportunity there to engage even more. Our agency directors go and participate in hearings to talk about the budget. There's some changes that the council does to the budget, but then once the final budget is passed, it does go to Congress for a review. And then after that, we move into the execution phase of the budget, which means we're really starting to spend those dollars on the programs and services that the mayor has funded in the budget. But that's not also the last step. Here in DC, Mayor Bowser set a really high standard for accountability, so that you know exactly how we're spending the money and what you're getting for your money. And so through the mayor's accountability reports and progress reports, as well as the council's agency performance oversight hearings in our annual audit, we are able to clearly understand and tell you how we spent those dollars. And so one thing I want to say about the progress report is you should be getting in your mailboxes soon. I mean, as in any day, I know people are starting to get them. Yeah, Ben's raising his hand because he got his today. Progress reports are hitting mailboxes. If you're like, I want to read it right now, you can go to progressreport.dc.gov. It is online and available there. I know that we're translating it as well, so there will be full translations of it available to residents. But that's just a great way of us to show how we have spent that money and how the programs are working. And we can go to the next slide. Our operating budget for this fiscal year is for FY22 was 18.4 billion. And I just want to highlight just some of the investments that we've made. And you can see about 3.5 went to public schools, libraries, recreation centers. We had 2.3 billion for public works and government operations. Those are critical items like what you're used to, which for many of you may be the most interaction you have with the government is like trash pickup, recycling, getting your car inspected, paving of streets and alleyways, sidewalks. And so those are just some of the, and you can see a little bit more here in the breakdown, but those are just some of the highlights of our budget and what's in those budget breakdowns. You can go to the next slide. One thing I want to, and then there's just some additional program investments here, and I know that that Ben and the team have made this slide deck available for you, but so I won't jump too into it. But you know, a lot of these commitments are commitments that the mayor has made. You know, at the not only the beginning of her first term, but definitely at the committee at the start of her second term as well. And so when you see us breaking ground on the new hospital east of the river that'll be opening, the regional center, medical center there, Cedar Hill. Those are commitments that the mayor's made that now we are making good on those promises and those commitments. And so these are just some of the key investments, and there's so many that are available at budget.dc.gov where you can learn more information about. And we can't wait to hear more from you about those investments that are important to you. We can go to the next slide. And then we also just, so that's the end of my slides. But, you know, I look forward to hearing from you all on the investments that are important to you. Again, you know, every year we look forward to this opportunity to just to hear from you on programs and services that you utilize, that you want to see more money towards. Are there school modernizations you want to see? Are there other key programs, small business supports? You know, those are just things that we look forward to hearing on. And, you know, I just want to remind everyone, we have the $100 game, which I hope you all will get an opportunity to play that. And if you want to tell me, hey, you know, of my $100, I want to see $80 go to public safety, or I want to see, you know, $100 go to housing, or however you want to break it up, you know, feel free to share that. We look forward to getting your responses. I know Ben and the team will be getting those and collecting those and hearing from you on that. But at any time in the coming weeks before the mayor proposes her budget, but definitely in this next 2 weeks, we hope that you'll go to budget.dc.gov and share your budget priorities, so that as the mayor makes her final touches on the budget proposal that we have to submit on March 16th, we can ensure that your priorities are reflected in that. So I am honored to be with you all today, and I look forward to hearing from you as we move through the meeting. So thank you so much, Ben.
Great. Thank you, Tomas. Tomas, I also put the budget, well, both progressreport.dc.gov, but also budget.dc.gov on the chat for folks.
Thank you.
Not everyone may be as familiar with the budget engagement process, and especially the workshop and the $100 worksheet exercise. So maybe if you could go into that a little more, it might actually help people and encourage them to go on budget.dc.gov and figure out how they would spend $100.
So there's two ways to engage with us. So usually at the budget engagement forums, that's our real time with the mayor to have you whether it's in person or virtual, share with her some of your budget questions, your priorities, what you want to see. But then we have also a game that we play, which is called the $100 game, because what we want to give you, I talked to you guys a little bit about the budget calendar and timeline and how the agencies you know, start formulating their budgets in the fall. It goes to the mayor, the fall and winter, and then it goes to the mayor. And we also then intake your input, and then we, you know, meet with the agencies again as they make their final touches for what they want to propose to the mayor as investments. And then, you know, the mayor goes through and makes those final decisions on the budget. And it's not an easy process by any means. And we have to make some pretty tough decisions and some tough trade-offs on what is, and the mayor does, on what is in those final proposals that she makes. And this year, that'll be March 16th. So the $100 game is to show you all, we all have to make budgets at home. We all have to make sure that, if we want to allocate maybe, of our $100, maybe I want to put 20 towards vacation. I'm putting 30 towards my housing bills. I'm putting 20 towards my car. Or we all got to do those budgets at home. Well, we have to do that real time as well with the budget proposal that the mayor puts together. And when we do that, there are trade-offs and tough decisions we have to make. And so the $100 game is a great opportunity for not only you to do that exercise and that experiment, because there's so many different clusters, as we call them, but different buckets of investments that are all equally important, but some we may make more investments in than others due to those trade-offs that we have to make. And so that's an example for you on how to do that, and then it's just good for us to then hear, why did you make that trade-off? What was you wanted to see more investments in affordable housing because you're happy with the mayor's 36,000 by 2025 goal, and you are proud of the level at of affordable housing production that's occurring, but maybe you want to see more. Maybe you want to see us invest even more on even middle income housing opportunities or other examples of that. And so maybe that's why you put more money there. Or the mayor has stated that she wants to get to 4,000 officers for public safety, and maybe that's something that you want to throw more money towards too. And you're saying, hey, I want to actually give 50% or $50 from my $100 game to public safety because I want to see more support for MPD and also violence interrupters, because we know that all operates in an ecosystem together. So those are just ways that the $100 game, as you think through that, as you fill that out, that's a way for you to think about it. This is your budget, and how would you allocate the budget? And then the form that's on budget.dc.gov, which is a survey form, is an opportunity for you to just give us more details. What would you want to see more? So it's housing, yes, but do you want to see more for the Housing Production Trust Fund, or do you want to see more funding for other types of housing programs or supports? On the healthcare space, do you want to see more behavioral health investments for the community? It just gives you an opportunity to share a little bit more information with us. But then you can also still do that through Ben and our mayor's office, MOAPIA, as well on the team. And that's why each of these, our constituency offices are holding these engagements with the community, so that we can also just hear from them. And we'll submit all of this to the budget team and to the mayor, and we'll share with her what we heard. Again, one thing I'm so proud of is the Immigrant Justice Legal Services grant, because that was the community, that was you, that was all of our community saying, this is what we want to see, as a result of, at that time, the Trump administration, and how do we protect our immigrant community? And we all stood up together and said, this is an investment we want to see, and the mayor made those investments in the budget. So that's an example of how the power of each of you and the power that you have in this process.
Great, thank you, Tomas. I wanted to say two things about your presentation before we head on to our next speaker. One is, one of the things I always enjoy when you come to us is your length and breadth of knowledge about our city government. So how much knowledge you retain and how much knowledge you're able to drop in terms of all of the numbers and all of the resources. So I did want to thank you for that. And also I wanted to put a finer point on what you said regarding the Immigrant Justice Legal Services Grant Program. So I mentioned it also in the chat is a program that we're proud to partner with, along with the other constituency agencies that serve immigrant populations. But their participation in the budget engagement forums, the organizations that have gotten those grants over the last couple of years, they have been very proactive in coming to the forums, in sharing their $100 worksheets, in being very clear that this is a priority for us as a city of, that has a significant immigrant population, that, continues to strive to be a sanctuary city. So it is something that we continue to be intentional about. And so, in my mind, it's one of the success stories of the Budget Engagement Forum. So I wanted to thank you for name checking that as well. So if we can go to the next slide, then we have information about our next speaker. So and some of the information that he will be talking about. So Patrick Ashley is the Senior Deputy Director at DC Health, and we're excited to bring him here to you as well. It's been great to see Patrick in the public limelight the past couple of weeks as Director LaQuanda Nesbitt has been not in front of the cameras every time with the mayor. So it's been great to see you, Patrick, be out there as well very publicly, because we know how hard you work every day on behalf of our residents. So it's great to see that everybody else gets to acknowledge that as well. So we're proud to have you here tonight to talk to our folks a little bit about some of the most recent changes and updates regarding the city's COVID-19 policies. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Director, and thanks for having me. Also want to acknowledge I'm joined by Director Vandernat, who's also going to tag team this presentation with me as well, because it crosses over both of our respective areas. So first, again, just want to thank you for having me here. But more importantly, want to thank the DC residents. It's been an incredibly long going on longer than 2 years, talking about COVID-19. And one thing I'm most proud about is the district residents who have been so committed to joining in the fight with us regarding COVID-19. And we know it's not been easy. We know that everyone has had to make significant sacrifices. Personally, professionally, we've seen individuals around us get sick. We've seen individuals around us die, and it's been a pretty terrible experience for a lot of us. And so I just want to acknowledge that and thank you all for joining in this fight with us. I'm going to talk a little bit more about COVID and where we're at, and then I'm going to let Director Vandernat talk about the dates here. But we've made significant progress in the fight of COVID since we saw our peak Omicron and winter surge sometime right before Christmas. We were seeing right around the Christmas timeframe where we were seeing about 2,400 cases per 100,000 per week. Which is an incredible amount of COVID. We had never seen that much COVID before in our communities. And we've had 3 other previous surges of COVID, never before to that level. And so we did as the district does, and we weathered the storm. And now proud to say that we're now down to about 150 cases per week per 100,000. And so I just want to repeat that again. We were at 2,400 cases per 100,000 per week, and now we're down at around 150 cases per week. Incredible amount of reduction here, but we're not out of the woods yet. Right, we've still got to weather this storm. We've still got to continue to wear a mask, and so the director will talk about this before, but we're downgrading our mask requirement to a mask advisory, and that's not to say stop wearing your mask, but also using some common sense about when it makes sense to wear your mask. And so just want to make sure that's captured, as this is not say COVID's done, we're out of the woods, but we do want to display some cautious optimism, and we want to get back to life, and we want to make sure that individuals can enjoy society after the last 2 years. The other thing I want to talk about before I turn it over to the director is just the importance of getting vaccinated. And I know this is on the slides here, but I can't not have a presentation and not talk about getting vaccinated. By now, all of you have heard about the importance of getting vaccinated, I'm sure. I hope that all of you are vaccinated. We're about 94.4% of individuals in the district that are fully or partially vaccinated, which is great. We still need individuals to get there, and so we want to make sure that you're talking to your neighbors and your friends and your family about getting vaccinated if they haven't. But one of the things that hasn't been talked about enough is the importance of getting boosted. And so in the city right now, we're only about 50% of our booster rate. And so while we have really great vaccination rates, again, 94 or so percent partially or fully vaccinated, again, 50% of individuals have not had that third shot. And so it's important just to talk about the reasons for getting a booster. And a lot of people don't understand that. If we look at somebody that's fully vaccinated versus somebody that hasn't had a booster, you're 2.5 times more likely to get infected. That's fully vaccinated to boosted. And so you reduce your odds significantly if you go and get that third shot. And you're 4 times less likely to die from being fully vaccinated to boosted. And so the numbers don't lie. We want everybody to get that primary first and second shot, but we really want people to still consider getting that third shot. And we know that, it's sometimes people don't want to get the shot. People don't like needles. We've made it super convenient. We've got 8 COVID centers located throughout the district, 1 in every ward. Some of them are open or some every day. There's some that are open late at night, so 9 p.m. is our latest day. And 7 days a week, you can go and get a booster. You can also do it at 150 locations that provide vaccines throughout the district. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Vandernet to talk about the mask wearing, some of the changes we've made recently to our VaxDC program, as well as the mask. And so with that, Director, I'll turn the floor over to you to talk some of those details about mask wearing.
Oh, wait, very quickly before we
Sorry.
introduce Director Vandernet, I did want to, well, thank you, Patrick, for your presentation. I did want to say just, one thing before we introduce Director Vandernet. You talk about the boosters. I'm always inordinately proud of the fact that at one of our events that we put on in collaboration with your office and with Iglesia Ni Cristo, the Philippine Embassy, and the Philippine Nurses Association, the mayor herself came over to get her booster. And so every time she talks about the importance, I smile a little inside because I know that she got her booster with us. So thank you for the work you continue to do, Patrick, and thank you for letting me brag just now. But I also did want to take a moment of personal privilege to be able to be the person to introduce Director Vandernet to our residents and our participants here tonight. Director Solana Vandernet is the not so new anymore, newly appointed director for the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. And so in that capacity, she plays a critical role in making sure that our restaurants, that our bars, that our cultural establishments are able to access critical government resources, which at a time like now is even more important. So the role that we play for our Asian and Pacific Islander residents in some analogous way is the role that she plays with our restaurants and our nightlife institutions, many of whom overlap with us, right? So our business owners are, the small businesses that we work with that are disproportionately Asian American often fall under her purview as well. And so, so I'm excited about the work we'll get to continue to do with each other, especially as we hopefully will be doing in-person events as the numbers improve. But for now, I wanted to content ourselves with having you join us tonight to talk about, again, some of the numbers and some of the requirements and advisories that Patrick mentioned, and a little bit about what your office does as well. So, Director?
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for including me in your town hall. My name is Lana Vandernet, and I'm the director of the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. And to give everyone a little bit background about what we do, we are the key point of contact, liaison, and advocate for businesses, residents, and government agencies who are part of the nighttime economy. To give you further information about what types of businesses, that includes bars, restaurants, nightclubs, performance arts and music theaters, art galleries, sports, recreation, and entertainment venues. And we are here to help businesses provide guidance and assistance with their compliance issues, and whether it be licenses or permits or any approvals that they need. For residents, we work with ANCs to resolve quality of life issues. And for government agencies, we work based on what their scope of work is and how we can come together to provide solutions to help the nighttime economy. So as we have been discussing, thank you for everybody for your timely efforts to keep the District of Columbia safe. And again, we encourage everyone to get vaccinated and boosted. And to provide an update as far as where we are right now with the vaccination requirement, effective February 15, 2022, Patrons will no longer be required to provide proof of vaccination before entering businesses. Businesses may choose to keep the vaccination requirement at their discretion. And any information that you would like to continue to review based off of what the vaccination requirement pertained, please continue to look at vaxdc.dc.gov. And also, too, there are also signs, the vaccination requirement signage that you can find on that website that is downloadable, that has also been translated into 6 languages. And when we discuss the mask requirement, on March 1st, 2022, the indoor mask requirement will be lifted at certain locations. However, masks will still be required at other locations, as you can see. For example, to go back to masks where they will not be required at beginning March 1st, restaurants and bars, sports, entertainment venues, gyms, recreation centers, and indoor athletic facilities, houses of worship, businesses, grocery stores and pharmacies, retail establishments, DC government offices, and areas with no public interaction. Please note, again, on March 1st, masks still will be required at any private business that wants to require use of masks by its employees or customers, schools, childcare facilities and libraries, congregate facilities, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, shelters, dorms, and correctional facilities, healthcare and medical facilities, public transits, taxis, and rideshare vehicles, and DC government facilities with direct interaction between employees and the public. For example, DMV service centers and DHS service centers. So just to be here, we are here today to provide an update as far as where we're at with the vaccination requirements and the mask requirements. We are always available to answer any questions you may have. Please feel free to email us at nightlife@dc.gov. And also, while I am here, I wanted to remind everybody that Mayor Bowser has invested $40 million into the Bridge Fund to provide financial relief to brick and mortar restaurants, retails, and entertainment venues that are still recovering from the pandemic. And you can find information about this, and you can apply at obviouslydc.com. Please keep in mind that the deadline is this Friday at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, if you have any questions for the Bridge Fund as well, please feel free to reach out to us at nightlife@dc.gov.
Great. Thank you, Director. I'm glad that you also name-checked the Bridge program. I know that it's something that our office has been very engaged in terms of providing information, helping our folks fill out the applications. And so as a resource that has moved really quickly, like, oh, we got it. Oh, the deadline is Friday. So I think it's been important for us to be able to work with your office to make sure that our residents, that our folks are able to apply for that critical resource for support. So thank you.
And something to note as well, too, when you look at obviouslydc.com, and you will be able to see that the FAQs and one-sheeters, they have been translated as well in various languages for everyone to help everyone apply.
Yes, our office is acutely aware of every time something is translated into our languages. So thank you for that. I did put that link into the chat as well. So let's open it up to folks to see if people have any questions. Robert, I don't know if anyone has been on, I don't think I see anything in the chat. I don't know if people have said anything on social media.
Hi, yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and just ask some questions that we got from some during some outreaches about this event. First, the question is gonna go to, I guess this would go to Tomas. So the first question is, the new Bridge Fund doesn't prioritize business owners who receive the Paycheck Protection Program. I understand why, but many small business owners, including myself, are still struggling as the variant surged and previous federal or local funds didn't last long. Do you have any plans to launch more funding programs?
Thanks for that question. I would actually, that's more of a question for DEMPED, and we will get a written response to that question for the submitted. We have been looking since the start of the pandemic and the ways that we're able to support businesses through opportunities like the Bridge Fund as we start to pivot to the recovery. And so we have prioritized these programs as a way to ensure that our businesses that have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic are getting back and are able to continue on. And the Bridge Fund does just that for so many of our businesses. There's opportunity for us to share that feedback with Deputy Mayor Falchicchio. And so we will do just that. And we'll also get a more succinct follow-up from DenPed.
Okay. I guess this is kind of a follow-up question to that as well, Tomas. We have another question about the budget. As we slowly transition into the post-pandemic period, what is Mayor Bowser's budget priority to help small businesses make that change? And would there be any programs for business owners to readjust and start over?
Great question. Again, so the mayor has not announced her budget just yet. We submit that on March 16th. But what I'm hearing from this question is wanting to ensure that there's more opportunities for and supports for small business owners in the upcoming budget, and how are we ensuring that that's reflective in for our residents as the mayor starts to formulate her budget. And it's something that we definitely are going to prioritize. And I think that the mayor also has worked to ensure that we're supporting not only small businesses, but our minority-owned businesses, and our district-owned businesses as well. And so, the mayor has been very focused on how are we ensuring that with district dollars and how we're spending district funds that we're contracting or bringing in opportunities for those CBE organizations. And Ben and the team I know has been working very hard to ensure that many of your businesses, if you are a small business owner, that you are registered as the CB in the district and that you're a part of that opportunity. And so I want to make sure that that information is shared with everybody that's participating, and that the opportunities for small business will continue to look at ways that we can invest more and more funding opportunities for them.
Thank you. This question is for directors, for Patrick Ashley and Director Solana Vandernut. So this person asks, I often see establishments that don't have vaccine requirements for entry signs, as there have been some changes in mask mandates. How flexible do businesses and establishments get to play the vaccine requirement policy? And even if the variant is slowing down, there are still many residents who feel the cautious approach needs to be placed. What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you for the question. I'll jump in. Do you want to go ahead?
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you so much for that feedback. And again, as we noticed that any private business, they are able to decide if they want to continue with the vaccination requirement and the mask mandate as well. So it's not gone. It's just now that the businesses have the opportunity to choose how they would like to move forward.
Patrick, did you want to say anything further related to that?
Thanks, Ben. I agree with Solana. I think we talk about different levels of protection in the community, and we understand that different people have different risk tolerances in terms of how they plan to deal with COVID, especially as we look at COVID as something that's going to be in the community for a long time. We've talked about the term endemic as well, meaning that it's just like flu where it's here. As the director mentioned, businesses now have the ability to make choices regarding whether or not vaccines are required in certain establishments. And just like mask as well, mask can be, after the 28th, individuals may or may not choose to be wearing mask in certain buildings. But that's not to say some individuals aren't going to continue to wear a mask. And that's one of the reasons why our COVID service centers provide the KN95 mask as well, so that individuals can take their level of protection that they want to use when they're out in the community. As I said in my opening comments as well, we want to have some cautious optimism. We want individuals to be able to partake in certain activities, but we still want to be cautious. And so, to your question about how do we feel about this, we want individuals to use some caution, do things smart, and use those layered mitigations we've talked about since the beginning.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think your formulation of it as an advisory and thinking about the nuance of it is, I mean, well, thinking about nuance is always difficult for city government, right? But the framing of it as an advisory at this point, I think has been helpful, I think, for some folks in thinking about the distinctions between mandate and requirement and so forth. So thank you for helping us make sure that we're capturing nuance.
Yeah, Ben, if I can as well, we talk a little bit about that, right? So like the public health side of this versus, the government approach to this. And public health makes lots of recommendations and advisories, right? We tell people that you need to exercise 4 times a week. We tell people not to drink, but we still allow the public to go out to bars and enjoy nightlife, right? And so it's about that moderated approach and people taking and understanding the risk that are to themselves and risk that are to others. So, not everything is necessarily 100% about a public health decision. If that was the case, we'd eat carrots and celery every day with your servings of proteins, right? But people have to live their lives as well. And so we recognize that, which is part of that balance that, we're really working to get towards here in this new reality of COVID.
Thank you. Rob, are there other questions?
Hi, this is a final question for Tomas. Sorry, right over here. How does the mayor's fiscal year 2023 budget reflect the importance of investing resources in protecting our teens from gun violence and educating the community about anti-Asian violence?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's a very important question. And again, as the mayor continues to look at her budget proposal, that public safety is a top priority, and ensuring that we're the ecosystem of public safety investments. And as we talk about that, what does that mean? That means we are investing in MPD, and ensuring that they have the resources they need to, because people want to see officers in the community. They want to see that MPD has enough officers and detectives to quickly solve the crimes that are happening, and that is a piece of this ecosystem. But that we're also talking about significant investments in long-term public health approach to public safety. So that's targeting those at most at risk of getting involved in violent activity or becoming a victim of violent activity, and getting them connected to better opportunities. And you saw the mayor doing this with programs such as building blocks, and through our Office of Neighborhood and Safety engagement with Once, and ensuring that we're sending violence interrupters into the community to intervene and before situations escalate to the point of violence. And because, we all know, and we've seen, these very heartbreaking incidents of violence and loss in our community. And so how are we ensuring that we're getting guns off the street, getting guns out of the hands of people that should not have guns, and making sure that this ecosystem works together? And this is a partnership amongst all of those agencies in the ecosystem. And then also a partnership with our federal and regional partners to ensure that we were able to do that. I think to the question of anti-Asian sentiment and hate, that's also that's on all of us as a community. I think that's about us calling out whenever we see any behavior of that nature, by ensuring that those in the community, in the Asian community, that are feeling threatened or feeling subjected to any sort of treatment along that lines, know who to call, whether it's the Office of Human Rights or MPD, and feel safe in doing so. And that's definitely the environment that we want to create for the community. And then it's about our DC values. And like I said, it's about all of us calling it out when we see it, but ensuring that our AAPI community in the district, which is so integral to what makes DC great, feels supported and feels safe. And so I think that's, not only are those investments in public safety and violence interruption that the mayor is going to make, but the mayor at the start of the pandemic was very vocal about pushing back on anti-Asian sentiment and calling it out and being an ally. And I think that that's really really important to all of us in all the work that we do. And I look at Patrick, who I've worked so closely with DC Health, and we pushed really bad. Or we pushed really early on sort of the any racist rhetoric in the pandemic, and making sure that DC Health was promoting as much as possible communications to the community and pushing back on any anti-Asian sentiment. And then my partner Solano, who's there as well, is how do we make sure that we're then and our partners at DEMPED, we're supporting not only our youth and helping them and ensuring they have safe spaces, but our business owners and our business community, making sure that they feel safe and that they have those resources when they need it. So that's something that I know the mayor prioritizes and will prioritize in her budget, and will continue to stand against any sort of anti-Asian sentiment or rhetoric in the community, and stand with our community and be an ally. And we all, as a staff, are committed to that as well.
Great. Thank you, Tomas. I just wanted to add a little bit. We will talk a little bit more in our next section about our Stop AAPI Hate initiative. Many folks that are on here tonight were with us earlier in August when we began to solicit feedback from the community to develop and guide our anti-API violence work. So more to come in our next section, but I wanted to actually, there is a question from the Wah Luck House, and so I did want to take a little bit of time because our seniors are there, and they wanted to ask about.
I got it over here,
Yes,
Ben.
please, thank you. Go ahead, Rob.
Hi. So this question is for Patrick. One of the seniors at the Wallach House just wants to, well, their word was not efficacy, but they want to know how safe is getting 3 shots of the vaccine. And if you could just kind of touch about, why it's important to get that booster shot.
Thanks, and I appreciate the opportunity to cover more about vaccines. So the reality is that vaccines have been given out, millions of times across the U.S., more than 200 million times, much more than that across the world, with very few negative outcomes. What we do see is the occasional allergic reaction, which is very rare. I think I would flip that question around and tell you, especially as a senior, and just being very candid, seniors are the individuals we see with the most negative outcomes. We see seniors dying at a much more high rate, dying, ending up in the hospital, ending up on ventilators than any other age group. And so their risk is far greater, in fact, if you don't get that booster, right? So, talking about it before, fully vaccinated versus fully vaccinated plus a booster, you're 4 times less likely to die. You're just 2.5 times less likely to catch the disease at all. And so, we want individuals to take assurances that the vaccine is safe, it's effective. Now, I'm not going to tell you that there aren't breakthrough cases, right? And we publish that data publicly on our dashboard so that we're transparent about that. But what we do see is individuals, whether they're fully vaccinated or boosted, they have far less significant outcomes, even for those breakthrough cases. And so really, you can't afford not to get boosted.
Thank you, Patrick. At the risk of flipping the question around further, I think part of the question was also like, is 3 enough? Like, what will it look like moving forward? Are we gonna, is this gonna be an annual thing? What does your crystal ball look like?
Ben, thanks for the question. I wish I had a crystal ball, and there's a council member or two that often ask me, what's going to be the next variant, and when are we going to see it? And the reality is, right, COVID is here. We're going to see it. We're going to see COVID change again. That's the reality of it. And I know a lot of public health professionals don't like to compare COVID to the flu, but I will. We see every year that there's a different flu strain. Right, that's a concept that many individuals are familiar with. Many times, we've uttered. I hear my parents and my friends utter this. It's been a particularly bad flu season, or this year caused people to get. The flu was a doozy this year, right? And so it's very similar, right? We're going to see diseases morph, and we're likely going to need additional vaccines. And the vaccines are going to change over time, just like we see the flu shots change over time. There's not just been one flu shot; it changes every single year. Now, there is a fourth shot currently allowed for individuals that are immunocompromised, but the current recommendation is 3 shots for most individuals, unless you've taken Johnson and Johnson, which is different. And so we want individuals to get that third shot. But that's not to say that we might not need a fourth shot later on down the road. And you're going to hear us continue to encourage people to take whatever's recommended. There's a lot of safety and efficacy data that's out there. And again, just like the flu shot, it's something that we take every year, and we don't think twice about it. And that's I think where we're going with the COVID-19 vaccine as well.
So stay tuned. That's my take.
And I will just, I want to throw a pitch again, but also just a big shout out to Patrick and his team, who worked tirelessly to ensure that as we move into this next phase of the pandemic, that we have resources to ensure that anybody that is not boosted yet or not vaccinated yet can do so, and do so very easily and very quickly anywhere in the district. And so we have COVID centers that have opened, one in every single ward, where you can not only get your vaccination and your booster, but you can get tested, you can get free masks. But I really want to emphasize, testing does not take the place of vaccination or booster. And again, you have to ensure that if you're not boosted yet, that you do so as soon as possible, because that will be your biggest protection. And so just encourage everyone. There's one just on F Street, right near the Wallach House, very close proximity, as an opportunity to go get your booster. And just again, thank you to Patrick and his team, who've worked very hard to ensure that those are stood up across the district.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
thanks,
Tomas.
And I did just want to, I always forget to mention this as well. And so thank you for jogging my memory. If you have issues with transportation, you have issues with childcare, or frankly, if you just don't want to leave the house, right? We also have a vaccine at home program. You don't have to, you can be anybody that's in the district. You can come and visit in the district. Give us a call. The number is 855-363-0333, and we'll put that in the chat. As well. If you give us a call today, we'll be at your house tomorrow. We're very quick about it, and so there's practically no excuses anymore between our service centers, between our home visiting program, and frankly, every grocery store in the district now. Almost every grocery store provides vaccines. So thanks again for the reminder, Tomas.
Great, thank you. I just got my negative test this morning, so every time I'm able to swing by the COVID center that's near our office on 9th and F, I do so when I grab some additional tests to bring to the office. So yeah, I think testing, it's yes and, it's not an either or. So again, I wanted to thank our presenters for joining us tonight, Tomas, Patrick, and Solana. Thank you, as always, for sharing your expertise with our residents. As we pivot to our kind of MOAPIA updates, part of the program, I did want to actually mention a partner that is not with us tonight, but DC HealthLink is another key part of our district strategy to make sure we keep our residents healthy, and that is through health coverage, right? So, the open enrollment season just ended on January 31st, but, their office continues to be at work making sure that they're able to support residents who are interested in getting coverage and that sort of thing. So, There's plans. We're going to put the website dchealthlink.com and the phone number 855-532-5465 on the chat here. But we did just want to mention that as well, and maybe see if Patrick is his picture is on my screen right now. I don't know if there's any final thing that you want to say about DC HealthLink.
I not really, just encouraging people to use the service. So
Great, thank you. And thanks again, Tomas and Solana and Patrick for joining us. We wanted to spend some time talking to you all as well about some of the things that our office has been doing in particular. You know, we've been able to insert some of the things that we've been doing in partnership with the agencies that have been mentioned throughout tonight, but I wanted to spend some time to share with you some of the things that we have been doing that we're proud of, but more importantly, some of the things that we're looking forward to as we head into the next couple of months, particularly heading into May, again, which is AAPI Heritage Month, which is our holiday season, and then into the summer. So if we think about some of the past events, that we're able to be in person, you know, I think about our Diwali event that many of you joined us at the Naval Memorial on 8th Street. And so that was a very successful event. You know, one of the city events that we were able to put on publicly in person before the variants came around and required us to rearrange our thinking about programs and activities that were in person. So our holiday toy drive was in person as well, and then our Lunar New Year program, obviously. But as we move forward, literally tomorrow, we have an event with our Asian American and Pacific Islander LGBT groups. And as we introduced Director Vandernat to you all tonight, I'm looking forward to introducing the relatively new director of the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs, Japer Bowles, to the organizations that we've been working with for many years now here at MOAPIA that support our LGBTQ residents and businesses here in the district. So as we head out of February and into March and April and May, we're reminded that March is Women's History Month. For us, it will also be the opportunity for us to acknowledge the one-year anniversary of the horrible shootings that happened in Atlanta when 6 Asian American women were killed. And so unfortunately, that event will be talked about around the country, but particularly here in the district, we will be observing the one-year anniversary of that event with our sisters and our siblings at the Mayor's Office of Women's Policy Initiatives. They have been starting a public safety series of discussions in different, I think their first one was earlier in the year, and as we go into March, it made sense for us to partner with them to have this public safety discussion with the one-year anniversary of the shootings in Atlanta in mind. So we will be bringing together a discussion of people, of experts, of people who have resources here in city government, the Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants, other advocates who will be able to talk to us about ways in which we can keep all of our residents safe, and with a particular lens on how the unfortunate spike of violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders has been occurring here in the district. So that said, I wanted to pivot to our programming work with a particular eye on our anti-AAPI violence work. We talked about the budget earlier this evening, and a very specific way that our office was enabled to focus more on this priority was through an investment from the city government. We were given an initial investment from the city government to dedicate resources towards anti-AAPI violence work. Right. So as we mentioned earlier, we convened discussions with residents, businesses, and our stakeholders in August of last year to get feedback from you all regarding our anti-API violence work, what it should look like, what it should cover. And based on the feedback that we received from you all, we have developed a three-pronged plan that we are currently in the process of enacting as we speak. So those three prongs include a training component, a communications component, and a community engagement component. So in terms of our training, you can see Sandy Dang here on our screen, who is the founder of Asian American Lead, one of our grantees. She, in her capacity as a trainer, is working with us to provide training for schools. So we're engaging a couple of schools in the DC public school system to provide training for teachers, administrators, students, and parents about how they can keep our communities safe, and about the unique needs that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have in in the schools and in the pursuit of safety for our communities. On the communications front, we are going to be rolling out a series of communications media campaigns over the next couple of months to bring social media, to bring paid media program component. So we're looking to put out images, communications pieces into the mainstream about our communities and the need for tolerance, and how our communities have been resilient in the face of violence and harassment, and making sure that we know that the city is not a place that tolerates discrimination, harassment, or violence against any of us. So these images and communications will be very distinctly Asian American and Pacific Islander. We will speak the languages our communities speak. We will engage different outlets. We will bring the levels of cultural competence and linguistic competence that we bring to our other work into this important discussion. And so we're looking forward to rolling that out as well over the next couple of weeks and months. And then finally, in terms of community engagement, tonight is actually one of our first important forays into making sure that we're talking to our residents, we're talking to our stakeholders about our anti-AAPI violence work. So we're making sure that we continue to spread the word about the need for tolerance, about the need to stand up against hate. Hate stops with us is one of the messages that we will be sharing across our different engagements. Again, whether it's with our commission, whether it's with our grantees, whether it's with other opportunities that we have to engage our communities, it will be an important component, again, of our three-pronged program to make sure that we are intentionally and proactively sending the message that hate has no place here in the district. So that is kind of the meat of the order in terms of the information that we wanted to share with you about the work that we're doing here at the Mayor's Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs. So at this point, I wanted to stop and see if there are any questions. I'm seeing some shout outs and love for Sandy Dang in our chat link. Of course, we love Sandy here at the office as well. But Rob, is there anything, are there other questions or feedback that we're receiving on some of the other platforms?
Hey, Ben. Yep, we've got a couple of preloaded questions about this. One of the first ones actually is going to be coming from a senior at the Wallach House. Sorry, let me just make sure that I'm reading this correctly. Okay. Okay, so as a senior resident at Wallach House, I've witnessed and experienced the public safety in our city, especially around Chinatown, wane drastically during the pandemic. There were incidents of seniors dealing with homeless individuals and teenagers participating in illegal activities. Could you address this more in your work and make sure that our safety will be protected regardless of the situation?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I would first of all say that we are very mindful of the impact that the uptick of violence and harassment that we've seen against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders has had on our elder population. Um, you look at some of the homicides that have happened in other cities and localities around the country. We've worked closely with the folks at Stop AAPI Hate, the organization that has been one of the organizations at the forefront of documenting the incidents of violence and harassment against our communities. And we know from the data that they've presented that seniors are disproportionately part of the victims of the violence that we've seen. Women are and femme folks have been a disproportionate part of the violence that we've seen, unfortunately. And so being mindful of that and being mindful of our seniors at Wallach House, at Kelsey in Columbia Heights, and in other locations around the city, we have been working to make sure that we're engaging, whether it's the Metropolitan Police Department, whether it's other agencies and stakeholders, to make sure that as soon as we hear a incident of violence against someone who has identified as Asian American or Pacific Islander, that we immediately respond to them directly. So as soon as we hear reports coming from the Metropolitan Police Department, we proactively approach those folks and make sure that their needs are being looked out for. We are currently continuing to work with some of the victims over the last year and a half, 2 years that we've seen, and provide service for folks. As I think about the Wallach House, in response to some of the similar feedback and response that we've seen from the seniors there, during the first year of the pandemic in 2020, in October, we did convene a meeting with the Metropolitan Police Department, and it became so interest in the meeting became so heavy that what was supposed to be a small meeting with a couple of seniors and the police department leadership in the Wallach House, especially because of the COVID protocols that were in place at the time, we ended up having to have an outdoor meeting in Chinatown Park on 6th and 5th in Massachusetts. And so we had an outdoor meeting with folks from the Wallach House, with our seniors, with other businesses and churches in the neighborhood, and they were able to share their concerns directly with the police department. So, it is efforts like that that we will continue to do. Our office continues to be able to be nimble and to provide direct support for our residents, especially those who have fallen victim to harassment or violence, especially when it has been unfortunately motivated by COVID, as we've seen again in other parts of the country. But I hope that answers the question. And obviously for our seniors at Wallach House, we'll continue to engage them directly to talk about ways in which we can provide additional support for them moving forward.
Hi, Ben. We've got another question, well, a concern from a Wallach senior. This is an incident that happened at a CVS near them. They were actually refused masks, refused to receive masks at that CVS, and they believed it could be a part of anti-Asian bias. could you kind of touch upon how our office, could or would respond to something like that?
Yes, if a business is refusing service to a senior or any person, we are able to, if it's a thing that we should bring up with the Office of Human Rights, if it's something that we can bring up with through different venues, that is something that we are able to do. I mean, if this is a particular case, we can follow up with them individually. But again, for folks in general, if you are experiencing any form of discrimination and especially if you believe that it is related to race, to gender, to any of the ways in which our city provides civil rights protections, you can and should refer that complaint to the Office of Human Rights. So that is ohr.dc.gov. If you have challenges in submitting a complaint there, our office is willing and able to help you do that as well. So you feel free to come to our office, communityaffairs.dc.gov/MOAPIA, find us on social media and that sort of thing. But our office is always intended to make sure that our Asian American and Pacific Islander residents, or all of our residents really, are best able to navigate city government, especially with respect to civil rights protections. So if there's something that you are seeing that's a problem in that regard, please reach out to us, or the direct office immediately. So we want to make sure that we're protecting the rights of all of our residents.
Okay. Next question that we have, Ben, is there was a recent anti-Asian hate incident near the Georgetown campus and M Street. Even if we might not have these incidents as often as it was before, we still have xenophobic incidents happening in our city. How does MOAPIA address this trend in your work?
Yeah, well, again, as soon as we get wind of any incident, report of a violent incident against a resident or business here in the district, we respond immediately. So our office, contacts that person. We make sure that they're able to receive any support that they might need. If they need help in navigating city government, the Office of Victim Services, the Metropolitan Police Department, or what have you, we are able to provide support for them in that regard. I think I don't have information off the top of my head whether that particular incident is something that we have that has come under our radar screen. Sometimes when it's an incident of harassment where someone gets shouted out or yelled at, or it hasn't gotten to become an incident of violence, and it doesn't fall under the radar screen of the MPD that way, it may not come to our attention. So, which is why, if you are hearing something, we encourage you to contact us if you hear of any incident or whatever, especially if you think that other people have not responded to it. We're here to help. This is something that's very personal to me. I have my own incident where my roommates and I, in my earlier years in the district, did not call upon the city when we could have or we should have. And I was doing civil rights work at the time. So I will have to live with that, the fact that I did not spring to the help of my roommate, in a way that I should have at that moment. It's something that I remember 20 years later. So I want to make sure that our residents are not regretting decisions they made 20 years ago, 20 years from now. So again, I want to make sure that people continue to keep ourselves safe, because, we often are the ones that have to keep ourselves safe. We know that from our communities. We know that in our advocacy work. And so that's what we're here for. Rob, I know that we're heading up towards the 7 o'clock hour. So I wanted to see if maybe we had what our questions look like.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, we have one last question, and then just kind of get a clarification just to your point. In regards to that previous incident, we did, it was actually reported to our office, and we spoke to MPD.
Great, thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, and the final question that we have, again, how much collaboration with other DC offices does MOAPIA do in terms of tackling xenophobia and anti-AAPI violence? Or do you have any future plans with them? This is our final
We
question of the night. Sorry.
We do literally tomorrow as we engage our LGBT groups with the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs. We know that homophobia and xenophobia far too often intersect and interlock with each other. So, it is literally what intersection means. So the fact that different kinds of oppression, different kinds of discrimination pile on each other, and the effect has it has an effect that's larger than the sum of its parts. So we are, whether it's LGBTQ affairs, whether it's the Mayor's Office of Women's Policy Initiatives to bring a gender lens to our API work, that is something that we are doing. We are always proud to partner with the other agencies that I mentioned before that serve immigrant populations. So the Mayor's Office of Latino Affairs and the Mayor's Office of African Affairs. DC has very unique Latinx and African populations, as many of us know, and so we are proud to partner with them. June is Immigrant Heritage Month, and so it's an opportunity for us to not only celebrate the immigrant heritages of where our residents come from, but to use it as an opportunity to bring light to serious problems. So whether it's xenophobia, whether it's the need for public safety, whether it's the disparities of health and education and other disparities that face our immigrant communities. We use this opportunity like Immigrant Heritage Month, like API Heritage Month, to work with our partners to make sure that we are, having fun, but we're also addressing serious problems. So unless there's any other burning questions, I did want to thank everybody for being with us for this time. I see that we still have a lot of our participants who are still joining us here at the end. So that's always a signal of a successful event. So I just wanted to thank you all for joining us and for sticking out with us till the end. So again, I wanted to thank our presenters for joining us, Tomas, Patrick, and Solana. I wanted to thank our commission. Some of our commissioners have chatted with us privately that they've been joining us here. I wanted to thank our staff again for doing an amazing job in bringing this to you tonight. And finally, I wanted to close by thanking you all for joining us. We are literally doing this work because of you all. And so, we look forward to continuing to engage with you. We look forward to figuring out new and innovative ways of reaching out and working with you all to address the issues and challenges and to celebrate the victories in our communities. So, there's a couple of, as we head into this time of hope and promise, but also mindful of the work that remains in front of us. We're looking forward to continuing to partner with you as we move forward. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to following up with you all in the future. Good night.